Today I'll be giving you the rundown on every single Premier League team for career mode. It took me ages to make this video. This year's was over 20 hours of work, so I'd really appreciate you dropping a like and subscribing if you want to see more career mode content. For every team in the league, we'll look at their squad, I'll give you some signing suggestions and a challenge for your save. Skip along the bottom of the video if you want to see a specific team, but anyway, let's get straight into it with AFC Bournemouth. AFC Bournemouth is a club that achieved quite a bit of success while lower down the English football pyramid. They're probably the only team in the league to actually achieve a full road to glory, with Luton Town being the only other real contender. Bournemouth possesses quite a strong attack, but can be vulnerable defensively. The club's strengths lie in their pacey forwards and technical midfielders. Thankfully, their whole defence actually does have the potential to improve, with Milos Kerkez potentially even being a Champions League level left back. Callum Wilson, who joined the club for an undisclosed fee in 2014, was an influential signing in their rise. His consistent goal scoring played a crucial role for Bournemouth's first promotion to the Premier League. You could re-sign him, but look for players with a similar profile to lead your attack instead. Dominic Solanke is kind of similar, but the Cherries could definitely use a new starting striker. After their bad start to the season, your biggest challenge is to try and stay in the Premier League in Season 1. See how far you can get into the Cups and use this money to improve the squad for Season 2 and hopefully a mid-table finish. From here on, either try and progress into the top half or move clubs to a more reputable Premier League team. Arsenal are a club with a rich history, known for their attractive style of football and cutting-edge stadium, the Emirates. I'd say they're ready for you to recreate their 2003-04 invincible season inside career mode, which of course was when Arsenal went the entire league season unbeaten, which is an unmatched feat in the Premier League. Arsenal boasts a very young, strong attacking force, but recently their issues have definitely been defensively. Their strengths lie in quick and skillful wingers and quite a good amount of midfield creativity, but you should definitely invest in another box-to-box midfielder to replace Thomas Partey. Thierry Henry, who signed for $11 million in 1999, is one of Arsenal's greatest ever signings. His prolific goal-scoring ability and impact on the club make him totally legendary. It might be a cool idea to sign someone with a similar tall winger profile, convert them to a striker, and see if you can find the new Thierry Henry. Similar could be said for Patrick Vieira. Arsenal's historically signs players from France, Spain and the Netherlands. Some notable players from these nations include Patrick Vieira, Cesc Fabregas and Robin van Persie. As we said earlier, the invincible season is more than doable with their current squad, so why don't you see if you can recreate Arsenal's famous invincible season by going your entire league campaign unbeaten in career mode. Aston Villa is a club with European history and also a founding member of the Football League. After their recent rise from mid-table to European contenders, why not see how quickly you can recreate their historic 1982 European Cup triumph, where they became champions of Europe. Aston Villa has a very strong midfield and two amazing FIFA-style wingers in Bailey and Diaby, but their defence could definitely use a rebuild. The club's strengths lie in their midfielders and attacking options, and that's been the case at Aston Villa for as long as I can remember. One of them was Stilian Petrov, who joined Villa from Celtic in 2006. He was a midfield general known for his work rate and his leadership, and he captained the team and became a beloved figure among the Villa fans. John McGinn currently fills a similar role for the Villains, but why don't you see if you can scout a Bulgarian replacement from your youth academy? Aston Villa has historically signed players from Ireland, Scotland and England. More recently, they've also moved to sign players from Spain and France, so basically any player from the biggest leagues is a realistic Aston Villa signing. If you want a challenge for your save, why not see if you can recreate this Aston Villa 1982 European Cup win by aiming to become champions of Europe inside your FIFA career mode save. Villa won the competition with a squad that was basically entirely English and Scottish, so why not rebuild your squad and see if you can do it with a fully homegrown team. Brentford FC is a club with a fairly small fan base, but a reputation for smart moneyball style recruitment. In FIFA career mode, you can recreate their unique approach to player scouting and development thanks to the new playstyle scouting system. Brentford is known for their analytical approach to player recruitment, and their strengths lie in finding undervalued European talent. This usually means their squad is fairly lowly rated on FIFA, but with very high potential. One of their best finds was Ollie Watkins when he joined from Exeter City in 2017. He was a massively influential signing. His goal scoring helped propel Brentford to the Premier League for the first time ever, and this is the exact style of signing you should be making. Lower league players who are on hot form. Brentford often signs players from England, Denmark and Sweden. The Brentford owner has some big links to Nordsjælland, so players like Christian Norgard from Denmark, Pontus Jansson from Sweden have been massive for the Bees. If you want a challenge, why don't you see if you can recreate Brentford's unique scouting approach by creating a top half side that is made up of only Scandinavian players. There's a lot of Scandinavian talent out there right now, so it's all about scouting and making sure you find the right players. Brighton and Hove Albion are known for their crazy ability to find wonder kids from tiny nations, and I think this year they're probably one of the most popular career mode saves in the entire Premier League. Brighton excel in ball possession and their midfield creativity is off the charts, but they do kind of struggle with scoring on FIFA career mode. There's only so many seasons you can rely on Danny Welbeck, but you should definitely be developing Evan Ferguson as soon as possible because he's one of the brightest attacking talents in the league. Lewis Dunk, who's a product of Brighton's youth system, has been such a massive player for the team. His leadership and defensive skills have been instrumental to the club's rise, but the issue with him is his total lack of pace and his advancing age. At 31, he's your captain and highest rated player, but it might be time to scout South America and find a youth academy replacement for season 2 and onwards. Of course, Brighton do often sign players from South American nations like Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay and Venezuela, but you should also be looking for better and already made talents in England, Germany and the Netherlands. If you can find the right players in the right areas and combine this all together into one mega squad, there's no reason you can't go even further and qualify for the Champions League for the first time in Brighton's history. Burnley are actually a club with a pretty underrated history and a reputation for tight defensive football. In FIFA Career Mode, you can recreate both of these things by replicating their historic First Division title in 1960 and also focusing on their defensive solidity. Burnley, of course, are best known for their strong, compact defence, but recently things have been totally different. Even in away games at bigger clubs, Burnley have totally dominated possession. They focus on wearing down their opposition with lots of passing, and you should make sure that you're strengthening your wings and your attack as soon as possible. Danny Ings, who joined from Bournemouth in 2011, was a massive goalscorer for Burnley. His performances in the Championship played a crucial role for Burnley's promotion in 2014. That's the kind of player that you'll need leading your line, someone hardworking and someone who can finish. Danny Ings is probably even an option for you. You should be able to grab him super cheap from West Ham in Season 1. Even with their new playing style though, Burnley still mainly signs players from England, Ireland and Scotland. While Vincent Kompany is in charge, also expect to sign players from Belgium and of course clubs that are in the Manchester City football group. Why don't you see if you can recreate some of Burnley's history by winning them a second First Division title, but this time with European football and continental tiki-taka style of play. Chelsea is a club with plenty of recent success, mainly thanks to their impressive financial backing and their pretty successful youth academy. More recently though, their academy players are used to finance £1 billion splurges on young talent that hasn't quite matured quite as quickly as they would have wanted. On FIFA, Chelsea boasts a well-balanced squad with strong attacking and lots of defensive options. Their strengths lie in a pacey attack and a pretty strong and physical defence, but the majority of their younger players are either injury prone or pretty low on composure. One of Chelsea's more influential signings of all time was Didier Drogba, who joined for £24 million back in 2004. It was his goals and leaderships that were pivotal for Chelsea winning the Champions League in 2012, and this is the exact type of player Chelsea need to lead their attack. Jackson could become this level eventually, but when players like Werner, Lukaku, Morata, Falcao and Fernando Torres have all failed to step up, you'll need to find the exact right player for this role. Chelsea often signs players from France, Brazil and Germany, so make sure you're scouting all three of these with your youth academy scouts. You can also see some of their best recent players have come from these countries, including Thiago Silva and Malo Gusto from France, David Washington and Andre Santos from Brazil, and Christian Nkunku from Germany. While rebuilding Chelsea should be your first goal, if you want a bigger challenge, why not try and recreate Chelsea's transformation under Roman Abramovich? To do this, you'll need to win multiple Premier League titles and the Champions League faster than the 10 years it took Roman's Chelsea to do it. Crystal Palace is a club that's probably best known for their fans and fun to watch football. In FIFA Career Mode though, neither of these things are really represented that well, but it's still a squad that I really enjoy using. They've got skillful wingers, they've got strong midfielders and rapid defenders, and this all makes them perfect for a Career Mode save. Crystal Palace has always been a side that's known for rapid, tricky wingers, but the club talisman Wilfried Zaha finally left the club in the summer. This season, their strength lies in organised defences and a pretty good set-piece record, but if you want the club to progress, you'll need either Elise or Eze to step up into Zaha's place. I think that Crystal Palace signing of Zaha, who rejoined the club after a spell at Manchester United, really is one of the most important transfers in their history. His flair and his goal scoring kept Palace up almost single-handedly some seasons, despite them not actually spending that much of their transfer budget. Crystal Palace often signs players from England, Senegal and the Ivory Coast, Basically, every single nationality in Africa has been represented at some point in the past decade, so replacing Zaha with someone from Algeria, Egypt, or Nigeria is definitely a realistic option. Even after your rebuild, you'll still have some challenges to complete. Palace have never won the Premier League, they've never won the FA Cup, never won the EFL Cup, and never played in a major European trophy. If you try and trick off all these objectives one by one until you make Palace one of the best teams in London, I can promise you'll have a super fun career mode save. If you're under 20, you might not realise that Everton are one of England's biggest teams. They have a legacy of top-flight football dating back to 1888. They've had European campaigns, league wins, and cup successes. If you're interested in their most famous season, check out the 1985 title-winning season under Howard Kendall that I made a video on 3 years ago. Everton have a pretty well-rounded squad with a physical midfield, an average defence, and some pretty decent strikers. Rebuilding their midfield to provide more goals and assists is probably quite important to you, as I'd say James Garner is pretty much their only creative midfielder and he's 72 rated. Everton will be hoping that Beto can be an influential signing just like Dixie Dean was, a club legend who scored 60 league goals in the 1927-28 season. His incredible goal-scoring record still remains unmatched in the Premier League, and I'm not going to suggest you try and match this with Beto, but Everton loves an iconic striker. Think about Tim Cahill, Gary Lineker, and even the homegrown Wayne Rooney. As you can see, Everton often signs players from England, Ireland and Belgium. They're about to lose their Irish fullback and captain Seamus Coleman to retirement, so see if you can scout a replacement to fill the gap that he'll leave. Everton also have a reputation for signing unwanted players from bigger clubs, so that could be a fun avenue to go down in your save. If you'd like a challenge for your Everton save, why not try and recreate their last title-winning side? Everton's strategy in their 1984-85 title win emphasised a strong defence, it required midfield control, and it relied on clinical attacking, high work rate and aggression. Develop a team following this formula and see if you can secure a First Division title for the first time in nearly 40 years. When Fulham were promoted last year, they had a reputation of being quite a yo-yo club, but it looks finally like they could be a long-term addition to the Premier League. Their seasons in the Championship saw them get a massive squad of players who probably aren't quite good enough for the top division, and this summer they've also lost talisman Aleksandar Mitrovic to Saudi Arabia. Last year's Fulham was set up to provide as many winnable crosses for Mitrovic as possible, but this year they've switched to a bit more of a possession-based style. Raul Jimenez and Vinicius are both kind of bad replacements for Mitrovic. With a fairly big budget, someone like Tammy Abraham could be a top addition. It's hard to talk about Fulham without also talking about Fulhamerica. In the early 2000s, Fulham had a period where it was the go-to English side for top American talents. Brian McBride was the first that I remember joining, but Clint Dempsey, Carlos Bocanegra and Tim Ream all proved that America was a great place for you to look for that new striker. Marco Silva is also generally focused on buying two types of players. He likes to sign the best players from smaller leagues like Maynor Solomon last year and of course Pal Helenia, who's become one of the best midfielders in the league, and also players who have been frozen out from Prem squads but still remain quite good. So think about players like Bernd Leno and Issa Diop from West Ham. With your rebuilt squad, why not see if you can go one further than their famous 2010 Europa League final loss to Atletico Madrid and win Fulham their first ever European trophy. Liverpool are one of the most famous and successful football clubs in England, known for their passionate fans and of course their long history of success. In career mode, you'll get to hear the legendary "You'll Never Walk Alone" before every single home game at Anfield, and despite their status as one of the biggest clubs in the world, it's now been a couple of years since success, so the fans are starting to get a little bit restless. As you'd expect, Liverpool has one of the best squads in the league. Their strengths definitely include their front three of Nunez, Gakpo and Salah, while they also have a revamped midfield and an ageing but still solid defence. Most people would agree the last big improvement to the squad came when Virgil van Dijk joined for a world record fee for a defender in 2018. His presence transformed the club's defence and led to their Champions League win in 2019, their Premier League win in 2020, and the improvement they've seen this season as well. This is the kind of signing you'll need to be doing, big transfers from the best of the rest to strengthen your squad. Outside of the Premier League, Liverpool often sign players from the Netherlands, Brazil and Italy. Some examples of these players include Dirk Kuyt from Feyenoord, while Alisson and Mo Salah both came from Italy. If you'd like a bit more of a long-term goal in your save, why not see if you can win the two titles the Reds need to overtake their massive rivals Manchester United. With Liverpool on 19 trophies and United on 20, you'll have to overcome smaller rivals Manchester City, who will also be serious contenders for basically every single trophy. Luton Town is by far the smallest and least wealthy club to play in the Premier League for decades, but still a team that I think a lot of people are interested in playing in FIFA career mode. You can even try and recreate one of their memorable runs in the League Cup, like the one where they got to the League Cup final in 1988. Compared to the rest of the league, Luton Town has a weak defence and also needs a strengthening in attack. Sadly, their midfield also has little creativity beyond the ageing Ross Barkley, so almost every area will need a rebuild. They also have the smallest budget in the league. As with most lower league clubs, Luton Town basically only signed players from England, Ireland and Scotland for most of their history. Their most notable player is definitely club legend Mick Harford, a player, a manager and their current head of youth recruitment. You'll need his talent spotting abilities to replace almost all of your team. If you really want your Luton save to be even harder, why not try and find the next Mick Harford by only signing players from the EFL? This means no foreign leagues, even Scotland and Ireland, and no players from other Premier League teams. You'll have to raid the newly relegated sides each season and hope your signings have a decent amount of potential if you really want to develop the club. Manchester City is a club known for transformation in the modern era, fueled by a financial backing. In FIFA career mode, you just have to maintain their ascent by becoming a dominant force in English and European football. Big money signings, big academy investment, and trying to get a quadruple are all going to feature heavily in your save. Manchester City boast a star-studded squad with strengths in attack and midfield. Their biggest strength is their creative playmakers and their prolific goal scorers, Erling Haaland and Julian Alvarez being two of the best strikers in the league. I'm not too sure who Man City's most influential signing of all time is. Sergio Aguero, David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland all transformed the club in different ways, and that's the kind of signings you'll need to make if you want to improve Manchester City. But realistically, the team is probably able to keep winning titles even if you sign nobody for half a decade. You could go all out and sign another world superstar. Mbappe, Bellingham and Vinicius Jr. would all improve the team, but when you're spending that much, you'd kind of expect them to win titles almost single-handedly. Instead, why not see if you can improve Rico Lewis, Phil Foden and Julian Alvarez to actually reach their potentials? While winning trophies with Man City is one of the easiest saves you could do, why not see if you can also win the first ever English quadruple? The league title, the FA Cup, Carabao Cup and Champions League are all winnable in the first season for Man City, but you'll have to be on top form to never slip up in a single one of those competitions. Manchester United are one of the most iconic and successful football clubs in the world. In FIFA career mode, you can go one of two ways. You could go academy focused and try and recreate the class of '92, which was a group of academy players who went on to become club legends, or you can go for a superstar rebuild, just like Manchester United have tried several times in the past decade. Manchester United are in such a weird position. Half their defence is world class on FIFA, including Varane and Onana, which I don't think many people would agree with in real life. The other half is still good, but they won't work in the same system as the good half. Maguire and Lindelof need low block, Varane and Dalot would probably want high pressing and a high line. The attack is in a similar situation. Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno work best in a possession-heavy style, but Rashford, Antony and Højlund are all most effective in a rapid counter-attacking system. You'll need a unifier to try and mesh the two systems together. Eric Cantona, who signed in 1992 for 1.5 million, was the best player Man United had when they were in this situation. His impact was massive, his personality lifted the pressure off some of the younger players, while he also had versatility that allowed him to play both technical and physical styles of football, depending on the opposition of course. While looking for your new Cantona, remember that Manchester United most often signs players from France, Portugal and England. If rebuilding one of the most demanding teams in the world isn't enough of a challenge, why not see if you can recreate the class of '92 inside your career mode? If you spend enough time developing young players, see if you can beat the golden generation that would go on to produce 6 players who would go on to have over 80 overall on the next FIFA game. Newcastle United is a club on the rise. They've got new owners, new signings, and lots of new fans. After their Saudi owner made people think they'd spend millions, instead they've spent money smartly and have a really balanced, good young team. On the pitch inside FIFA, Newcastle have a solid but slow defence, a top midfield that could maybe use a little bit more attacking firepower, and 2 pretty decent strikers. For as long as I can remember, Newcastle has always been a club that's known for having iconic strikers. I'm not sure Isaac has reached that level just yet, so this season their strength will probably lie in organised defences and making the most of Trippier's set pieces. Of course, Alan Shearer is Newcastle's most influential signing of all time. When he returned to his boyhood club for a world record fee in 1996, he instantly became a club legend with his prolific goal scoring. It would be cool if you could find a new Shearer in your academy, so why not see if you can get an academy player to break his goal scoring record. Eddie Howe has built a Newcastle team that is still mostly English, but a few players have joined from Spain, France and Germany recently. With a Champions League qualification, go ahead and sign basically any player from anywhere in the world. There's a lot of challenge in a Newcastle save already. They've got a busy schedule with all their competitions, you've got a demanding board who gives you tough objectives, but if you'd like a real challenge, why not see if you can bring the Champions League to the northeast of England for the first time ever by winning the final and bringing it home to Newcastle. Nottingham Forest are one of the Premier League's most historic clubs with a pretty remarkable past, but I'm sure I've mentioned that enough times by now. If you want one of the longest possible Premier League career mode saves, I think you should try and replicate their back-to-back European Cup triumphs in 1979 and 1980. The Forest squad has had a lot of changes over the past 2 seasons, but now they have a young talented attack with Awoniyi, Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi and Elanga all having tons of potential. Behind them they have Ibrahim Sangare, who was someone that both me and Tifo Football love to recommend for every team to sign, but then they have a pretty average defence. It's probably here that you'd want to strengthen first. Sangare has the potential to go on to be one of Forest's most important signings of all time, but they could really use a new Stuart Pearce at left back or a new Des Walker at centre back. 2 world-class players who had dominant personalities that they found from the lower league clubs. Keep an eye out for regens because someone like Chris Smalling's or Kyle Walker's regens could easily fill these gaps within 2 seasons. If you're interested in realism, Forest have had a ton of Irish and Scottish players in their academies, and of course more recently their Greek owner means lots of Greek players too. You might need some of these potential Greek superstars if you plan to recreate Forest's back-to-back triumphs. All you need to do is win consecutive UEFA Champions Leagues inside career mode. I mean, that sounds quite simple, right? Sheffield United is a city known for its steel production, but their leading club, Sheffield United, now finds itself at a crossroads. While maybe not as storied as some of their Premier League counterparts, the personality that the Blades have cultivated gives them a unique charm and potential to make your mark in career mode. As you'd expect with the city's steel-based history, Sheffield United have always had a reputation for being solid at the back, but more recently it was their attacking centre-backs that stole the show. Chris Wilder has now left and Heckingbottom's United is back to being hard-working and a defensive side. As a championship side, Sheffield United often sign British players from England, Scotland and Wales. While they aren't the worst team in the league, you'll probably be spending a lot of time trying to find cheap, underrated players to strengthen this side. There's a realistic signing in every single position inside the EFL and some of the smaller leagues inside Europe. Last time Sheffield United were promoted, they nearly qualified for Europe. This makes an easy challenge for me to give you. See if you can beat Sheffield United's 9th place finish last time they were promoted. Tottenham Hotspur started the 2023 season on fire. It was almost certain the Spurs would improve under Postecoglou, but no one quite knew how good they would end up. With their new playing style, Spurs have remained one of the most difficult teams to break down, while also having a lethal counter-attack with Son, Johnson, Richarlison and Kulusevski. This gives Spurs one of the most fun squads in FIFA, but it also gives you the opportunity to have a career mode where you can slowly rebuild their defence, with all of their defenders currently having about 85 potential. The Spurs squad could easily change to basically any style depending on the kind of manager you choose to be. Thanks to the talent of Son, Basuma and Maddison, it's basically totally up to you if you prefer to return to the Conte style or keep it as a more open and attacking Ange Ball style. The challenge with Spurs is to simply win the Premier League. It might take a year of strengthening and developing, but with Johnson, Van de Ven and Udogie, you could easily have the quickest team in the league. Your first 2 seasons are your best chance. After that, you'll probably have to replace Son and see if you can create a stronger team for a second go at the league. West Ham are potentially one of the most fun career modes in the Premier League. Starting off with one of the biggest and most unique stadiums in the Premier League, I actually think it's the only English stadium to have a running track on FIFA. West Ham have the potential to be just as big as Spurs, Arsenal and Chelsea. The West Ham squad might not have the flair it used to have when Dimitri Payet was attacking midfielder. By far the biggest issue at the Hammers though is their lack of youth. With only 2 players under 28 years old in their starting 11, Edson Alvarez and Lucas Paqueta seem like youngsters despite being 25 years old. Even though they spent most of it, West Ham managers do still get to spend some of the Declan Rice money in career mode. Buying youth has to be the priority, but make sure you keep looking at South America, the Netherlands and Ireland for more top talent. Replacing someone like Michail Antonio with Guirassy from Stuttgart might be a really good idea. If rebuilding an old team while also performing in the Premier League sounds too easy, why not see if you can make West Ham become the first team to win all 3 European competitions? Last year they won the Conference League, why not add the Europa League this season and see if you can then go on to win the Champions League in the next couple of years? Wolverhampton Wanderers, of course commonly known as Wolves, are a team that's going through a rebuild at the moment. If you send out a permanent scout to Portugal to identify the next Moutinho or Neves, this gives you an easy, unique twist to playing a Premier League career mode save. It's not hard to see why Wolves are probably best known for signing Portuguese players. This year they have 8 in their squad, but this is actually a decrease on the 14 from last season and the 16 from the year before this. Is this a move away from Portugal? Well, kind of. Recently they've added a few Brazilians to their squad instead. This is good news for career mode because both Brazil and Portugal are packed full of really fun players for your save. For the past few seasons, Wolves have relied on Neves, Moutinho and Jimenez to provide a strong core. Now all 3 have left, so you'll need to invest hard into both midfield and attack. For a team that's been in the Premier League for 6 seasons, you'd expect a better squad, but still Wolves have a big budget, so you can easily rate the Liga Portugal for 5 new starters in the first transfer window. If you'd like a challenge for your Wolves career mode, why not pick a totally different nation to rebuild with? Maybe your version of Wolves can reach Europe with 15 French or 15 Spanish or even 15 Swedish players. It sounds easy, but finding these players in the right roles from the right nations is actually much harder than it seems. So that's my roundup of every single team in the Premier League. I tried to go in as depth as I possibly could while also keeping every team a little bit briefer than a full video would have been. Hopefully you managed to sit through the entire thing, but even if you skipped around and now you just want to see how the video ends, thank you so much for watching. Like I said at the start, it took me ages to make, so I really would appreciate a like or a subscription, but even if you just leave a comment saying that you hated the video, that's fine too. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Cheers and goodbye.